What is going on, everybody, and welcome to the Tuesday edition of the Stochastic NHL Strategy Show. I am your host, Josh Harris. Could be the last Tuesday show of the year. I don't know. We'll have to see. It is possible. It's possible that we are winding down.
I mean, I think so, because one way or another, I think the first round is done Sunday. So. Yeah, I think this is probably the last Tuesday show of the season.
Pouring out for the homie Zoltan. And then, we'll probably have Tuesday, Thursday this week. If a bunch of these series extend, we might be here Saturday. We would have to run very good to get a show on Saturday. So today and Tuesday could be it to see the Bearded Beauties on 2 p.m. Eastern on Stochastic. But, we have a 4-game slate here tonight. Nice to get a 4-gamer. Tired of playing these 2-gamers. We got the Sens in Toronto for Game 5. Devils in Carolina for Game 5. Minnesota in Vegas and Oilers in Los Angeles. 2 of these series can end. Ottawa and New Jersey trying to stave off elimination. Joining me to break it down in his Sean Kemp draft hat, Clifford.
You can tell it's getting towards the end of the season. It's funny enough, growing up East Coast Canada, there wasn't a lot of sports to watch on the few channels that we had. So sometimes you would get Seattle Supersonics basketball because at that time Toronto Raptors weren't a thing. But anyways, that's how I became an early fan. Doesn't matter. Do have 4 games here tonight. We had 2 last night. Tampa, Florida was absolutely wild. It was one of those games, like it was a really tight checking game. And then Tampa scores 2 goals in 11 seconds to take a 2-1 lead. There's a bunch of shenanigans. There probably is at least 2 suspendable hits from Florida. And then Florida scores 2 goals in their own 11-second span in the third period to take a 3-2 lead, add the empty netter to win 4-2. Game-winning goal, I believe, scored by Aaron Ekblad, who should have been thrown out. Wasn't even given a penalty. NHL playoff officiating at its finest, ladies and gentlemen. So Tampa, and now it looks like Tampa's going to be without Brandon Hagel for Game 5 because of that hit. Not looking good for the Lightning, I could say that much. Dallas, Colorado. There's a bunch of interesting things going on in that series. And eventually at some point, I'm going to go through it to break it down somewhere else. Cale Makar is having a bad series. Just flat out. If you look at the regular season with him and McKinnon on the ice, like Colorado is like overwhelmingly, like overpoweringly dominant. In the postseason, McKinnon's been better without Makar on the ice. Like he's been better with like Ryan Lindgren and Sam Malinsky and those types of players than he has been with Cale Makar. And Cale Makar is not doing good otherwise. And it's not just that Makar is not scoring goals. The team is getting, I don't want to say run over, but it's basically 50-50 when he's on the ice. I don't know if there's an injury, if there's some sort of coaching adjustment, because, Dallas isn't really a hard forechecking team. They're kind of like a puck possession, east-west, that type of thing. And so, I don't know why Makar's struggling that hard, especially where, it's not like it's permeating through the lineup. Like I said, the second and third defense pairs for Colorado have all been good to great. Like Malinsky and Girard, the limited number of minutes because Malinsky's only played 3 games. They've been great. Makar, it is wild. He just does. It's not that he doesn't look like Cale Makar. He just barely looks like a top pair defenseman. And I think that's something that's really hurting Colorado. Obviously, one of the big advantages that they have over most teams is the Makar-Taves pair is generally dominant when they're on the ice together. They had a couple dry spells this season, but were largely excellent. So far, these playoffs, they have not been. And if Colorado's on the brink of elimination themselves, I think the next game's Thursday, if I'm not mistaken. If they want to go to Game 7, if they want to win the series, particularly, Makar has to be better. I think that's just kind of what it is.
Yeah. I mean, like, you don't know. No one's healthy at this point. But, like, if they get eliminated, it'd be like, yeah, Cal McCarr played, game 2 through 5 with, like, a lacerated spleen or something.
Yeah, like he had like a bionic arm inserted after game 2 or something. Like, I know, I understand that part of it. And the thing is like, I don't want to go into huge rant because we do have 4 games to get through. If that is the case, your other pairs are playing well, play them more, play him less. Like, that's kind of, you know what I mean? Like, don't play him 25 minutes a game if they're not 25 useful minutes. Like, that's just, anyways. Sorry, we have 4 games to get to. We can't keep going on this.
Maybe they need the guy impersonated Jared Bednar to be the coach instead of Jared Bednar. But anyway, there's every playoffs there's some guy dressing as the coaches behind the bench. It's like, how bored and rich are you that you can dress like the coach and sit right behind the bench every playoff game? But anyway, let's get into this slate. Nice little 4-gamer here. A couple teams trying to avoid elimination. Ottawa Senators with a 2.5 total heading into Toronto. The Leafs have a 3.1. Leafs going Matthews, Marner, Nyes, Nylander, Tavares, Holmberg, Domi, McMahon, Pacioretty. Ottawa going Stützle, Tkachuk, Giroux, Batherson, Cousins, Perron, Pinto, Grieg, It's-A-Me, Amadio. Mario doesn't say it's me. I just learned that. He says It's-A-Me, which means I forget. We don't have time for this. We probably do have time for it, but I forget what happened here. I want the Sens to win this game. I'll be flat out. Like, I want to see this series extended. Like, Leafs game 7 first round is just pure cinema. So, like, we need the Sens to win here. It's the same matchup it's been. Doesn't matter what city. It's going to be the same thing. This is a very special teams heavy series. Ottawa doesn't create anything at 5-on-5. They are really relying on their power play. I don't mind like a one-off Brady Tkachuk, a one-off Batherson, a two-man Stützle Tkachuk or something like that. I'm not 100% sure I would full stack anything. I would do some sort of like 3-man power play stack if you really wanted to stack Ottawa. I'm not certain I want to stack Ottawa here. I'm probably more likely just to one-off some guys. If I had a stack a line, it would be that top line, Tkachuk, Stützle, Giroux at 16K. I just don't think I'm going to get there. I just want to, Brady Tkachuk shooting the puck a bunch. Like, Batherson hasn't had a great series. Cousins hasn't had a great series. But to stay alive, their big guns need to do work, and that's why I'm more likely to go to that top line. More than likely, I'll just one-off Brady Tkachuk if I play Sens or two-man him with Stützle. That third line, again, like Grieg, Pinto, if you're, doing something with Minnesota or Vegas or Edmonton, don't mind one or two of those guys. But really, it would be like Stützle and Tkachuk or Batherson and move along. On the Leaf side, it's kind of the same deal. It's the power play guys. And, I wish that Pontus Holmberg wasn't on that second line, but he is, and we have to deal with it. So, again, like, I'm just going to sound like a broken record. It's going to be Matthews. It's going to be Nylander. It's going to be Tavares. Those are the top 3 guys I want in my lineup if I'm playing Leafs. I think you can go two-man at just Tavares, Nylander. Add in Matthews, leave off Holmberg if you want. Marner and Nyes are the 4th and 5th options for me on their power play stack. Depending on price and what you want to do, putting either of those guys in is fine. Going 4-man or 5-man. I just think that Matthews and Nylander are the most important to the team. Tavares is the cheaper of the other 3 options, and he's been shooting the puck a bunch. He's played pretty well in this series. So, again, it would be Tavares, Nylander, and Matthews. One off Domi, one off McMahon. Fine if you're looking to, spend up elsewhere and you need a cheap one off. But again, It's a broken record no matter what city it's in. It's really just the power play guys.
I mean, yeah, like again, 8 of the goals in this series have been scored on there have been 8 power play goals in this series in 4 games thus far, averaging 2 a game. Toronto has 5. The Ottawa Senators have 3. Neither penalty kill has been very good. I was looking at obviously these are small samples all against one team so far in the playoffs, but Ottawa's penalty kill is last in the playoffs by shots against per 60 minutes. Toronto's is 12th. Like, these are not good penalty kills. These are both good power plays. Toronto has the advantage. 1, they're at home. 2, they have the better power play. But it is about the power play guys on both sides again. One of the reasons, I mean, Ottawa obviously can get there. I think one of the reasons I have a little bit more interest in Ottawa than I typically would is Tkachuk, Stützle, Giroux is 16K, right? Like, Tim Stützle is down to 5,200. Like, I was just kind of scrolling earlier. This is the cheapest that he's been all season. You know, Brady Tkachuk is at 7K. If I'm not mistaken, that's the cheapest that he's been all season. So, like, I'm kind of hesitant to play Ottawa because they've been completely unable to generate anything at 5-on-5. Like, they really do have to get there on the power play. But the thing is like, let's say they luck box into 1 goal at 5-on-5. They get 1 on the power play. Stützle adds an empty netter. All of a sudden, they have a massive night, and they could generally not play that well at even strength just because Stützle will play with the empty net. Giroux sometimes plays with the empty net. You know, 2 of the 3 guys are on the top power play unit. It's a good power play matchup. You know, so I'm kind of tempted with Ottawa 1 year. The thing is they're not generating anything at even strength. Like, we talked about that on the last show. We talked about it all season, how Ottawa's really struggled to generate a 5-on-5, and it's not just luck. They don't create high danger shots and high danger passes and those things at 5-on-5. They are one of the worst teams in the NHL at doing it. And Toronto's really limiting their chances. We get a lot of our tracking data that you and I use individually from a guy called Corey Snazier, has a website called All 3 Zones. And he did a write-up of the first 4 games. I just read it this morning. Tim Stützle, I think, has 26 controlled zone entries in this series at 5-on-5. 26. He's averaged over 6 a game. And Ottawa's generated 1 scoring chance off of those 26 entries. The Leafs are just... And Corey put it, I think, the best way that of anybody that I've seen is Toronto is generally doing a very good job of turning Ottawa's grade A scoring chances into grade B scoring chances. And that's what's going on, is that even though Ottawa's has more possession of the puck, they have more zone time, they're getting more shots, fewer shots are getting through because Toronto's blocking everything. And Ottawa doesn't have the offensive creativity to get around it. You know what I mean? So, like, I don't think the Sens create much at 5-on-5, but again, all they need is like 1 lucky bounce. They get a power play goal, and because they're only 16K, you're in business. It's not like they're 19,400 or something, right? 16K is very reasonable. So, kind of tempted on Ottawa 1. I obviously haven't made my lineup yet. It's probably the line that I would play. I will shout out Ottawa 3. The only reason I do that is because the Leafs' third line, generally speaking, has been atrocious this series, like easily their worst line. And the Leafs' fourth line, they've been fine, but definitely not good. And they weren't good in the regular season after Lawton got there. So I don't want to read too much into them being fine for 4 games. It might not be a bad matchup for like a Pinto, you know, Grieg or something like that. Like, they're getting ice time. You know, Pinto, I think, is 3rd on the team amongst their forwards in ice time, and Grieg is 5th or something like that. So, like, you know, part of it's the penalty kill, but they do get ice time. I don't mind a 2-man from Ottawa 3, but it's Ottawa 1. Toronto side is what I like best, obviously. Like, the Toronto power play unit's just carving up Ottawa. The top line at 5-on-5 has been good. they're doing it shooting 22%. That's the problem here, is that they're scoring well at 5-on-5, but they're not generating anything. 46 shot attempts per 60 minutes for the top line for Toronto in this series at 5-on-5. That is bad. And even for a team that didn't generate as much this year as they had in years prior under Sheldon Keefe, that's like even worse. So if they don't keep shooting over 20%, they're in real trouble. But, a Matthews one-off, certainly. Matthews, Nylander two-man, just stack the Toronto top line, I think is fine. On the Toronto side, I'm focusing strictly on the power play guys. On the Ottawa side, I think it's kind of the same, but I do think you can do a two-man from Ottawa 3 just because bottom 6 matchups kind of favor that line a little bit just because Toronto's bottom 6 really isn't that good.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest differences between Keefe and Berube. It's on defense in the playoffs. These guys are a lot tighter, and they're a lot more active with their sticks in the passing lanes, and they've blocked an absolute boatload of Ottawa shots. So, you guys can complain about Berube all you want, but he's done a pretty good job. But anyway, go Sens. New Jersey Devils with a 2.7 total heading into Carolina. The Hurricanes have a 3.3. Everyone on the Devils blue line is a game time decision, it seems like. I know Hughes is out. Dillon is out. Siegenthaler and Pesce are game time decisions. I mean, they're a mess on the blue line. Looks like Jarvis is going to be with Stahl and Martinook tonight. Svechnikov on the top line with Blake and Aho. And then, Kotkaniemi, Hall, and Stankoven, I think. Is it Stankoven?
No, it's Will Carrier.
Oh, Carrier, yeah. That's the third time today I wasn't able to read something right in front of my face. That's fun. The Devils going Timo, Hischier, Palat, Bratt, Mercer, Halla, Nason, Glass, Cotter. Listen, Freddie Anderson's out. It is Pyotr Kochetkov. It's just that Hughes is already out. I mean, they have Hamilton. He's a decent puck mover. If, Pesce's out, that's a mess. After Hamilton, just moving the puck is going to be a problem. If anything, I'd go to Hischier, Meyer, Palat. I don't love it, especially when we just talked about Ottawa won at 16,000 coming in, 0.5% less in a pretty good power play matchup. This is a pretty rough matchup. Special teams matchup for the Devils. It's a decent 5-on-5 matchup because, the Carolina hasn't been great, but it's in Carolina, and now Stahl is back with Stahl and Martin. Jarvis is back with Stahl and Martinook, and that line is just a meat grinder. So I really just don't like the Devils here. You want a one-off Bratt, you want a one-off, something cheap because you need something like a Paul Cotter or Cody Glass. That's not great, but whatever. But for most likely for me in single entry, you won't see a New Jersey Devil in my lineup from their forwards. This is a Carolina game for me. There's definitely 3 playable lines here. Aho, Svechnikov, Blake. Leave it to the Devils to wake up Svechnikov, who's been asleep all season. He had a hat trick in the last game. If he's anywhere as close to back, look out Eastern Conference. But I think that top line's fine at 15,900. They're $100 more than the Devils' top line. They're coming in with 14.3% projected ownership, but there's no planet in my single entry where I would play the Devils' top line over a Carolina top line here. I think I do really like them, but if you're going to give me Stahl, Martinook, and Jarvis at home for their cheap price, it's hard to pass up. That line has been excellent all season, both ends of the ice. They get shutdown matchups, which means at home their ice time will be up. Jarvis will play his big minutes anyway. He's important on the power play and on the penalty kill. Weirdly enough, I saw someone, I forgot who it was, so I'm sorry if you're watching this and it was you who tweeted it. His home and road splits with with shots on goal this season. He's a much more active shooter at home. That sounds like a little BVP, but like if you're going to – basically what I'm saying is Carolina 3 is my favorite line in this game. Obviously have no issue with Carolina 1. Carolina 2 is fine if you want to get a bit different in a fairly high ownership, high total game. But Carolina 3, Carolina 1, Carolina 2, Devils if I was playing 150 if they happen to get into my mix.
Yeah. I do want to talk about the matchup of the series real quick, because this was a series I think you and I both kind of expected Carolina to go through. I think I had it in a sweep even, maybe 5 games. At 5-on-5, it's been a pretty close series. Money Puck has it 52-48 expected goal share in Carolina's favor, and Natural Stat Trick has it 50-50. Now, that's only at 5-on-5, but Carolina really hasn't been good. And I had a thread about this on Blue Sky earlier today. I was looking at some of the defensive numbers for Carolina because I wrote about it. Wrote about the Carolina third pair and how good they've been for my newsletter this morning. But something I did mention in the newsletter was Carolina this season. They gave up the fewest unblocked shot attempts against at 5-on-5, the fewest in the league unblocked shot attempts from the other team. But their shot attempts allowed per expected goal from the opposition was also the lowest in the league, meaning opposing teams needed fewer shots to generate one expected goal against Carolina than any other team in the league, like worse than like teams that like Montreal, Buffalo, Pittsburgh, Anaheim, like worse than all those teams. Carolina did a great job limiting shots, but once teams actually got in the zone to set up a play, they were kind of carving up the Carolina defense pretty hard. And New Jersey's kind of doing the same thing. Like the New Jersey top line, like I'll just mention Meyer and Palat. Meyer and Palat in 40 minutes together at 5-on-5 in this series, 83 shot attempts and 4.6 expected goals for per 60 minutes. They are destroying Carolina at 5-on-5. The problem is now they're going to get Jarvis, Stahl, and Martinook, as you mentioned, and they were elite defensively this season. 1.8 expected goals against per 60 minutes of 5-on-5, 1.2 actual goals against. I would say the counterbalance to that is that Pyotr Kochetkov is in net, and he did not have anywhere near as good a season as Freddie Anderson. Freddie Anderson was great up until he got hurt. Kochetkov is still a question mark. I'm not super excited about playing New Jersey here. It's one of those things, they're kind of like the opposite of Ottawa 1, where Ottawa 1, I think, is in a terrible 5-on-5 matchup and has not played well at 5-on-5 in this series, but have a great power play matchup, whereas New Jersey 1, I think, has, even against Stahl and Martinook, has a fine 5-on-5 matchup, but has a terrible penalty kill matchup. Like the Carolina penalty kill has not given up a goal yet in this series. I think they're at like 80 shot attempts. The New Jersey top power play with Meyer and Hischier in them is at 80 shot attempts per 60 at 5-on-4 in the series. Like they're just not generating anything. And they had a very good power play even without Jack Hughes. Carolina is really holding that down. So it's all about 5-on-5. I'm going to be honest, just because they did move Jarvis back to that line and how good they will be defensively, I'd be kind of tempted to go to Bratt, Mercer, and Holla. Like Mercer and Bratt, they've also been fine offensively. 68 shot attempts, 3.8 expected goals, 2.9 actual goals per 60 at 5-on-5 in this series. Obviously, it's just a little over 40 minutes played. It's not a huge sample, but they've been able to generate well, and they're not going to go up against the Stahl line. A single entry, it's tough to get there, but I think you can make a case for playing New Jersey too if you're playing a bunch of lineups here tonight. You know, you do get Brad on the top power play in case they do score, but I think New Jersey 2 is the only line on the New Jersey side I really have interest in. On the Carolina side, I think there should be interest in all 3 lines. I'm going to be honest, that second line with Kotkaniemi, Hall, and Will Carrier is kind of tickling my fancy a little bit, just for the reason that they're 9.4K, if I'm not mistaken. they're going to get bottom 6 matchups from New Jersey. And while New Jersey's top 6 has actually been really, really good at 5-on-5 in this series, the bottom 6 has been terrible. This is what New Jersey has done at 5-on-5 with none of Timo Meier, Nico Hischier, or Jesper Bratt on the ice in this series. 83 shot attempts against per 60 minutes, 3.8 expected goals against per 60 minutes of 5-on-5. That's the New Jersey bottom 6. I think it's a pretty good matchup for that Kotkaniemi line. Kotkaniemi and Hall, 37 minutes in the playoffs, 97 shot attempts, 4.5 expected goals, 4 per 60. The reason I mention them is because there's a really expensive Toronto power play stack you can play if you want. There's a really expensive Edmonton power play stack if you want. You might be looking for a line that you can play or a couple players around the 3K mark that you might want to play. So like Kotkaniemi, Hall, 2-man or something like that, I think makes a lot of sense here tonight. If you're trying to save money so you can pay up for Toronto, so you can pay up for Edmonton and those types of things. Other than that, like I think I probably agree with you that I would rather play the Martinook, Stahl, Jarvis line. But I think Carolina has 3 playable lines in this game. I'd rather play anything on the Carolina side than New Jersey. But I will shout out New Jersey too because they have been good in this series. And I do think with the Stahl line off the ice, they can do a little bit of damage against Carolina.
Yeah, you don't need to convince our boss, Jake Harr, to play the real Wild Bill, William Carrier, tonight. Now he's going to go 87%. That's just what he does. Because Yossi's not on the slate. Minnesota Wild with a 2.4 total heading into Las Vegas. The Golden Knights have a 3.5 total. This series is tied 2-2. Minnesota going Kaprizov, Boldy, Eriksson, Ek, Zuccarello, Hartman, Johansson, who is back, Foligno, Gaudreau, Nyquist. Vegas going Eichel, Dorofeyev, Carlson, Hurdle, Stone, Saad, Barbashev, Smith, Roy. Now, in the first few games of this series, Eichel was not playing a bunch. He was playing like 16, 17 minutes. He played 24 minutes in game 4, I believe, or game 3. Played heavy minutes in game 4. They can dictate matchups here. I still would imagine, that line with Eichel, Dorofeyev, Carlson is interesting. At 17-4, they're coming in with 28.2% projected ownership. Like, I like them, but again, like, the Wild are really, really good defensively. They don't have a great penalty kill, and that would be the reason I would play them. Even if they get the Eriksson, Ek, Boldy, Kaprizov matchup, like that line isn't great defensively, but the blue line has been very, very good all season when healthy. 28% projected ownership seems a bit high, but, Vegas hasn't had tremendous issues scoring. I think they've scored, 12 goals in 4 games. That's not bad going up against the Wild. It would be Vegas 1 for me. You want to go to Vegas 2. They're coming in at 17% at 14K. Hurdle, Stone, Saad. And the issue that I have with the second line is I have no faith that it's going to stay together. I feel like Dorofeyev and Stone will flip at some point. I don't know. I don't have I don't have tremendous faith in that top line sticking together, but Eichel's going to play his minutes. They love giving Carlson minutes. Dorofeyev shoots the puck. I do have a little bit of concern with that second line staying together, but they are only 14K. The issue is the ownership. At that ownership, I'll just go to that top line at 28%. Hurdle has been very good in this series, so it's fine if you need a filler-ish stack. The third line, I'm not tremendously interested in. If you want to one-off Roy or one-off Riley Smith, I think that's fine. You want to go, do like some sort of like Eichel, Hurdle, Stone, or Eichel, Carlson, Hurdle, something like that, I guess is fine. But, I'd be more likely to go to the top line than the second line. The Minnesota side is a bit interesting because Minnesota top line is the most expensive on the night at 21.5. They're only coming in with 7.1% projected ownership, highest positive leverage on the slate with a 26.8% top two stack. I don't know if I would full stack. Like we've talked about it a bunch, and it's kind of rang true in this series as well. Like Joel Eriksson X shooting this season has gone down. I'd be more likely to do like some two-mans, like a Kaprizov Boldy two-man. I don't even mind like a Hartman Zuccarello cheap two-man. They get their minutes. They're cheap. Zuccarello's on the top power play unit. Like on the Minnesota side, obviously my favorite is Kaprizov and Boldy. They've been excellent in this series. It's just really, really expensive. So if you want to go down to Hartman Zuccarello, I think that's honestly fine. That whole line is 12,100 coming in at 2.5%. They've gotten their minutes. They've been decent in this series, but it is the big boys on both sides that I like the most.
So this is the argument that I'll make for Vegas too. The hurdle and stone line. The Minnesota top line on the ice in this series, Minnesota is giving up 23 shots and 2.0 expected goals against per 60. With the Minnesota top line off the ice, they're giving up 31 shots and 3.1 expected goals against per 60. The Minnesota top line has been legitimately great in this series. Obviously, anybody that's watched the games, Kaprizov and Boldy especially, have been outstanding. The depth, like Hartman has had some good moments, good games in the series. Certainly, Zuccarello's looked fine on the power play when he's been there. But like honestly, Marcus Foligno had I think one key goal in game 2, if I'm not mistaken. Overall, the depth really hasn't been that good. So, like, assuming Eichel and Karlsson are going to go out against that Kaprizov line, then you get Saad, Hurdle, and Stone going out against those second and third lines that really haven't been that good. And, you know, Saad and Stone didn't get to play a lot during the regular season. The time they did get to play together, 75 shot attempts and 3.3 expected goals per 60 and 85 minutes together. Like, they were really good. Hurdle and Saad, regardless of the winger, most of the times with Dorofeyev, but Hurdle and Saad have been very good since Brandon Saad got to Vegas. They're going to be wildly overowned. If you're playing Vegas tonight, every line is going to be wildly overowned. That's just kind of the way it is. Considering both top two lines have two guys on the top power play unit, I will probably go with the line that I think is in the much better 5-on-5 matchup, and that's Vegas 2. So for me, I don't mind Hurdle Stone inside here at 14K. You know, there isn't really much for expensive defensemen, but if you do want to play, you know, maybe you want to play like Ottawa 1, and then you throw in a couple of 5 to 6K defensemen, and then you got your goalie and you're on your way. Like, if you do want to play a couple of those more expensive defensemen, this is probably one of the lines that I would consider. I think Vegas definitely has both their top two lines are eminently playable here. Don't get me wrong. I'm just going like considering both lines have guys on the top power play unit, two of them, and the second line is going to be in a much better 5-on-5 matchup. I think I'm going to go with Vegas 2 here. On the Minnesota side, like, I don't mind, like, if somebody wants to do a two-man of like Hartman, Zuccarello or something like that, I think that's okay. Like, I wouldn't go against it. But for me, it's like if I'm playing Minnesota, I'm playing the big boys. You know what I mean? They just get such heavy minutes. Like, they're perfectly correlated. They're all going to play over 20 minutes unless something really goes wrong or really goes right. You know, they could play 23 or 24 even in a regulation game. They've been really good so far in these playoffs. 82 shot attempts, 4 per 60 minutes, 3 goals, 4 per 60 minutes of 5-on-5. You know, Eriksson Ek hasn't scored yet. You mentioned his shooting problem during the regular season. It's kind of been the same in the playoffs. He hasn't scored. Does have 17 shots in 4 games. So, like, at least he's trying. You know, give him his gold star. I would probably still rather play Toronto 1 here than Minnesota 1. But I do think that there is a case to be made for Minnesota because, let's face it, Eichel's not had a very good series. Vegas's penalty kill got better towards the end of the year, but generally wasn't good this year. I do worry about the Minnesota power play because they announced Bouilliam's not playing. The Minnesota power play had not been good, basically, whether it was Spurgeon, whether it was Faber, whether they went 5 forwards, it didn't matter. Like, it was actually good with Bouilliam. They were creating shots and they were creating goals, and now they're scratching them. So that's what's kind of taking me out, is that I don't think this is a good power play matchup for them. I think it's a bad one, so I'd rather play Toronto. But I think for me, it's Minnesota 1 or bust. But overall, I'd rather play Vegas. So for me, it goes Vegas 2, Vegas 1, Minnesota 1.
Edmonton Oilers with a 2.9 total heading into Los Angeles. The Kings have a 3.2. This series is tied. Edmonton with new lines. They're going McDavid, Hyman, Nugent Hopkins, Draisaitl, Podkolzin, and Arvidsson, Kane, Henrique, Brown, Frederick, Janmark, Perry. Nurse and Bouchard still together, which has been an adventure, to say the least. Kings going Fiala, Byfield, LaFerriere, Kempe, Kopitar, Kuzmenko, Fogle, Moore, Deneau. Was it? I don't know. It might have been yesterday. Me, you, and Jake were talking about this game. Like, they scratched Spence and put in Jacob Movare. He played 2 minutes and 47 seconds. Brant Clark played 11:58, and then like the top 4 all played over 30 minutes. They're also just running 3 lines. Like, the Kings' 4th line just does not play. So like the top of this Kings lineup is playing heavy minutes. Like, Edmonton's going back to Picard. Ekholm's still out. Like, the goaltending in this series hasn't been great on either end. I do really like Fiala, Byfield, LaFerriere, 15,400, 25.5% projected ownership, though. That's really high. Fogle, Moore, Deneau, 18.7% projected ownership. Kempe, Kopitar, Kuzmenko only has 7.5% projected ownership. They are 18,200, though. But like, the Kings have scored power play goals, I think, in every game this series. Or maybe they missed last game, but like, they've scored more power play goals in the last 4 games than pretty much like the last 2 months of the season. Something ridiculous like that. I don't mind. Like, if you want to leave off Kuzmenko, that's fine, but I think full stacking Kopitar, Kempe, Kuzmenko at 7.5% here is an interesting play in MME. Now, you can like one off Kempe, one off Kuzmenko in single entry. I don't think I can prioritize building around LA1 on this slate when you have the big boys like Edmonton, you have Toronto, you have Minnesota, there's Eichel, you know what I mean? So like, in single entry, I'd probably be more likely to go to like Byfield, Fiala, than full stack LA1. I think it's fine, especially when they're coming in at like basically a fourth of the ownership. If you listen, Edmonton's a mess defensively. Their goalies are a mess. I think the Kings have 3 playable lines at 3 different price points. It's just a matter of your tolerance with the ownership, because all 3 are going to play heavy minutes. You know, that 4th line, they play 6 minutes or whatever. So the Edmonton side, again, like, they say the lines are Nugent Hopkins, McDavid, Hyman, and Podkolzin, Draisaitl, Arvidsson. I have no faith that lasts more than 3 shifts. So, like, I have no issue just focusing on the power play guys.
Yeah. Just to jump in, I'm pretty sure that's how Game 4 started, and then Corey Perry and Leon Draisaitl were on the top line by like the 3rd shift of the game. So, like,
yeah, and it's just like, Perry was on the top power play unit, so if they go back to that, McDavid, Draisaitl, Perry's fully correlated top line. You know what I mean? Like, I don't even mind that 3-man. Like, honestly, with Edmonton, the number 1 guy I'm prioritizing is Leon Draisaitl. Then it's Connor McDavid, and then it's guys like Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, Hyman, Perry, Nugent-Hopkins. You know what I mean? So, like, The two big ones are obviously Draisaitl and McDavid. I'd be more likely to one off Draisaitl than I would McDavid, and then I would work around that. But listen, I think it's a great game to prioritize in any format. That all these games have been bad goaltending, power play goals, wide open at 5-on-5. So, I think my favorite in this game is some sort of like Draisaitl McDavid stack, but like they're like all three Kings lines are very, very playable here.
Yeah, I do think the Kings definitely have three playable lines. Like, I think it's fairly notable that there are 7 lines on the board tonight here that have a top 2 stack of at least 10%, and 2 of them are Los Angeles 1 and Los Angeles 2. And then Los Angeles 3 is at 9%. So like 3 of the top 8 lines by top 2 stack are LA1, LA2, LA3. So like obviously they do have 3 playable lines. Personally, I hate that they're so expensive because I think it's bad value that Kings 1 is over 18K. Like if you look at the projections, Andrei Kuzmenko's DK points per $1,000 projected tonight is 1.15, which is just immensely bad value. Like Adrian Kempe makes a way, way better one-off. Adrian Kempe has the second highest winger projection of anybody on the board here tonight. He's just behind Kirill Kaprizov and way ahead of Matt Boldy. So I think Kempe makes a fine one-off. I do think LA1 is overpriced. Here's the thing. This is kind of like, I mean, it has been about 5-on-5 as well, but this has also been a special team series, right? The Kings lead the playoffs with 7 power play goals. The Oilers have 4 in 4 games. That's 11 goals between these two teams on the power play in 4 games. And they're not getting lucky. Like, obviously, the Edmonton power play, we know when they're fully healthy that they're one of the best in the league. This LA power play against Edmonton, 12.3 expected goals per 60 on the power play in this series. Like, between 8 and 9 is pretty good. Between 9 and 10 is like, wow, that's an elite power play. The Kings are at 12.5. Like they are fully earning the fact that they are destroying the Edmonton penalty kill. So that's why I'm kind of tempted with LA1 here, because they are perfectly correlated. They are going to get minutes. As you mentioned, every single player in that top 9 is probably going to play north of 16 minutes. And every single player on the top line is probably going to play between like 18 and 21. So like you're going to get the minutes. They don't shoot a lot besides Kempe. That's one problem. But it is a great power play matchup for them. They're not going to go out against McDavid. It's the Danault line that's going to get the shutdown matchup. So, you're going to get the second and third lines. Now, Edmonton's kind of been fine defensively, usually in their second and third lines. Without Ekholm, that kind of changes the equation because he is their best defensive defenseman. But if I had to choose, even factoring in the fact that they're a little over 18K, I would probably go Los Angeles 1. If you want to just go middle of the road, play the Byfield line. My third favorite line, and they are the third by top 2 stack, is LA3. But I agree. There are definitely 3 playable lines on the Kings side. On the Edmonton side, like, it's play Connor McDavid and then build around him, right? Like, I think that's kind of the way it goes. Like, if you want to add Leon Draisaitl with him, just build around them. I think that's fine. Like, there are plenty of cheap lines to play here tonight. We already mentioned Ottawa 3. There's a bunch from Carolina that you can play for cheap. We mentioned, that second line for Minnesota. Like, there are very cheap options that you can pair with very expensive Edmonton players here tonight. And, Edmonton's kind of getting lucky to get the goals that they are. But listen, man, this is a 4-game slate. Projected ownership has Leon Draisaitl under 10% and Connor McDavid under 7%. Like, that is pretty tantalizing when you're talking about a team that has scored a lot of goals in this series, has typically scored a lot of goals against the Kings in the playoffs in recent memory. So, I do think you definitely have to worry about them changing up the lines, because they absolutely will. But if you want to do like a McDavid, Nugent Hopkins, Draisaitl 3-man, I think I'm fine with that, because there are plenty of cheap options elsewhere on the board that you can play. And the King and the Edmonton's power play's been not as good as Los Angeles's, but excellent in their own right. So for me, it's building around McDavid specifically. If you want to say McDavid and Draisaitl, I think that's fine. But honestly, I think Kings 1 is my favorite line in this game.
Yeah. You had bigger stones than I did. I really like them. I have a hard time. I think I'm going to have a hard time clicking them in, even though I like them the best on the Kings. Just like the fades you have to make in single entry, if you put all of them in, is horrifying. But that's the way the single entry life goes anyway. Let's talk about these defensemen on the blue line. Top of the board, 5K and up, going from most expensive to cheapest. Bouchard, Hamilton, Sanderson, Theodore, Riley, and Shabbat. Bouchard's number one. He plays a ton of – he's had an adventure in this series, but he's at least producing offensively. He's 6,800. I think he's number one for me. Sanderson would be number two. It's a very important game. Like, all these games are important, but this is a do or die for the Sens. After that, I think, Theodore would be 3, Hamilton 4, and then Shabbat 5. But, if I'd be hard pressed to spend up. If I was spending up, it would most likely be for Bouchard or Sanderson. Otherwise, I'm looking elsewhere.
Yeah, Dougie Hamilton's number one for point projections here tonight. I have trouble clicking in Dougie just because it's such a bad power play matchup for New Jersey that he really has to get there. Like, he can get there with peripherals. Maybe he gets a goal at 5-on-5 or something. I don't know, man. I'd honestly be more inclined to play Jake Sanderson. Like, Sanderson just plays a lot of minutes, and it's a really good power play matchup for Ottawa. Bouchard definitely fine just because he plays minutes. It's a good power play matchup for them as well. So I think Sanderson and Bouchard for like the over 5K crowd. Darnell Nurse, like, I hate to say it, he's one of those guys, like, he's great for DFS. It just is what it is. So I don't mind Darnell Nurse. Noah Hannafin, I think, is all right as well. For cheaper guys like Brent Burns, the top pair for Carolina generally hasn't been that great this series, but they do get decent minutes. Mikey Anderson and Vladislav Gavrikov, both reasonably priced, both projecting well. And as you mentioned, the Kings are basically playing like 4.5 defensemen now, which means even if the game doesn't go to overtime, they're cruising past 20 minutes and pushing 25 minutes. You know what I mean? So, like, Anderson and Gavrikov, I think, are both very much in play. Jonas Brodin projecting reasonably well. If you need to save money and play somebody from the Kings blue line, it's Joel Edmondson. Assuming Siegenthaler plays tonight, Siegenthaler's under 3K. I don't mind him as well. So I think Edmondson and Siegenthaler would be the two guys under 3K that I would target.
Yeah. Let's talk about goalies. There are 8 of them. Do I like any of them?
Don't sound so excited about it.
Yeah. Like, I don't even know, like, what goalie I would go to that feels safe-ish. Like, on DraftKings, like, because I was doing stuff on Underdog this morning. Yeah, it's like that 6-round, 6-player playoff draft. Underdog, it's more like you need the win. That's more FanDuel-esque. But on DraftKings, volume is king. And honestly, I don't mind Markstrom at 7K. But the one goalie I think is my favorite would be Stellaris. As long as, they can hold Edmonton or Ottawa's power play from going nuclear. They haven't been creating much at 5-on-5, so it would be Stellaris. Like, Kochetkov, I guess, would be fine, but, like, I just don't have faith in the $8,400 Pyotr Kochetkov. I guess Kemper is fine as long as he doesn't get nuked, which is possible, but, like, it would be Stellaris 1, Kemper 2, Markstrom 3. I don't mind Gustafsson. You just kind of hope he gets the volume as well. So, yeah, I'm probably choosing between Stellaris, Gustafsson, Markstrom, and Kemper.
Yeah. Kochetkov, if you look at the goalie stats section on Stochastic. He has the highest implied shutout percentage, but he's ranked 6th for projected saves out of the 8 goalies. That's why I don't really like him. You'll probably be fine if he gives up like 2 goals on 25 shots or something like that. The problem is like if he gets to like 3 goals on 20 or something, like that's when you start getting into real problems. I think at 8,400, you really do need a shutout for him. It's one of those things like if I make a lineup and I have 8,500, then yeah, stuff in Kochetkov, I think it's fine. But Stolarz is number one for me as well. He does have the highest point per dollar value of all the projected goalies here tonight. So Stolarz is number one. For the cheap goaltender, I agree with you on Gustafsson. He's been really good in the series. Like I know Vegas is average 3 goals per game. Like I said, the Minnesota second and third lines really haven't been playing that well, and he's kind of kept them in it, and that's behind a bad penalty kill on top of it. So I think, if Minnesota wins tonight, maybe they win a high-scoring game again, like 4-3 or something like that. But I got to think that if they do win, Gustafsson's going to be a big reason why. So I don't mind Gustafsson for cheap. Otherwise, it's probably Markstrom. Feels like one of those games, like if New Jersey forces a game 6, it's because Markstrom holds like 36 of 37 shots and they win 3-1 or something like that. You know what I mean? So I think it's Stolarz, Gustafsson, or Markstrom for me.
Yeah. Like if you have the cojones, as we say, in the mid-range, Kemper and Picard are there. They're goalies, and they can stop the puck occasionally.
Honestly, it's one of those things. Like I don't like crossing anything out. Like one of the first things I did when I started going through the slate today was just cross out both goalies in that game. I'm just not. I don't even care if one of them has like a 29 save shutout tonight. I'm just not dealing with those guys.
That's honestly more than fair. They're just there. That's what I'm just saying. They're playing. And no, Frostback, do not put in Eric Portillo at 6,500. Your goalie can score more than 0. Thursday could quite possibly be our last show of the season. Our beards will thank us. But who are you liking for your hat trick pick?
I will say that the Leafs get it done tonight, and it's going to be on the back of a hat trick from Bobby McMahon.
The absolute scenes in Toronto if that happens. The clubs in Toronto will be in fuego. I'm not exactly sure what is going to happen in this game, but I do know for sure that Kevin Fiala is scoring a hat trick.
Kevin Fiala is going to have a hat trick and 5 points, and they're going to lose 7-5.
Oh yeah, that game's going to be an absolute. I wish it was at like 8:30 p.m. Eastern because my old ass will not make it to the end. But man, that series has been a lot of fun to watch. But
yeah,
we will be back on Thursday for possibly our last curtain call of the season. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us, and we'll see you on Thursday.
Good luck tonight, everyone.